I'm Katie, and this is Tony, and we just wanted to share our adoption story of Juliana. She was adopted on May 7th of 2019, and we wanted to share about what God has done through our story and in our lives.
So Katie and I got married in 2010. We've been trying to have kids for a while. A couple miscarriages and some infertility issues. Finally, in the spring of 2018, after sitting in a adoption panel at a family reunion we were at, we had decided that we were going to pursue adoption.
So I just Googled adoption agencies in our local area, and one of the first names that popped up was Pearce, which is our last name. And I just clicked on that one first, and we were able to meet our home study agent, who we ended up having a great relationship with, and started setting up, doing a bunch of paperwork in the month of June of 2018, and setting up those interviews for the home study.
So as we were working on getting approved through the adoption agency, we started telling people that we were going to adopt. So at that time, we have some good family friends, Dean and Millie Clausen, down in Kansas. And my mom called me and said that they had a little girl that they had been fostering for a while that they think is pretty sure going to come up for adoption.
So yeah, right at the end of July of 2018, we drove down to Kansas, and we showed up there and just hung out with her all afternoon. Tony held a little frog up in her face, and he was just wiggling it, and she was giggling, and it was probably one of the sweetest memories. We took a video of that moment, and we rewatched that video over the next few months, like, constantly. So we drove away that afternoon, and we were both kind of crying a little bit, and real excited about the prospect of adopting her, and just excited to get going as fast as possible, really. So
we came back to Iowa, and we continued working on becoming approved to adopt, and that did go through. But we kind of decided that we were going to pursue Juliana. So during that time, after talking with her caseworkers, talking with Dean and Millie, and understanding kind of how adopting from foster works, it became clear that to speed this process up, we were going to have to move to Kansas. We decided that I was going to continue to work in Des Moines, Iowa, and Katie was going to live in Kansas.
About 2 years before all of this, Tony and I were living in Michigan, and Tony got offered a job here in Des Moines, and we weren't really sure why, but we felt like we needed to move. We felt God's movement there in our lives that we needed to move to Iowa. So we moved to Iowa, and we got here and just kind of had one of those moments like, what did we do? Why are we in Iowa? We weren't really sure why we had been called to move to Iowa. Well, come to find out 2 years later, here we are. Tony's driving down every weekend to see Juliana and I, and it became very clear that God was working even 2 years previous to this, that we needed to be in Iowa to make this adoption process easier for our family.
So my typical week during this whole process of Katie living in Kansas and me working in Des Moines is I would work up in Des Moines Monday through Friday, and then probably around Friday afternoon I would drive down to Wichita, and then Sunday after church I would drive back up to Des Moines. So I was able to spend a good 48 hours or so with Katie and Juliana, and my work was great. If I ever had to leave on a Thursday or come back up to Des Moines on a Tuesday, they were very flexible and they worked with me.
During the fall and into the winter, I spent my days up at Dean and Millie's house almost every single day, hanging out with Juliana, hanging out with Dean and Millie. We got to know each other pretty well, became really good friends of Dean and Millie's, and just really appreciated their hospitality, their graciousness, welcoming me into their home every single day. At the time, we wanted Juliana to be placed with us permanently right away. What we came to realize now, looking back, is that was definitely God, that she was not placed with us right away. she needed that time to transition. It was great that I was able to get to know her in her home with Dean and Millie, and then slowly transition to spending the weekends with us, to special occasions with us, and then a little bit longer times with us, back and forth a little bit. And at the time, Millie and I both felt like, man, we just want this to be done so she's not back and forth. But looking back now, that was definitely God's timing that we did that transition period the way we did. It made it so much easier for Juliana to get to know Tony and I, and just make that transition into our home. From about the beginning of December till February 18th, it was slow going. We didn't really move forward in our process. We didn't hear from anybody. It was a little discouraging for both of us. Plus it was winter, which is always kind of discouraging.
Yeah, during that time, we did not get a lot of confirmation from Juliana's social workers, from the agency, from the state of Kansas, stating that things were moving along quickly. When we met with the judge, had ordered that her adoption needed to be finalized in May, but we were not getting any kind of confirmation from anybody that was actually going to happen. So we felt like for a couple months that a lot of things were unknown, and that was a little discouraging.
But it was also a good time for us to grow in our faith spiritually. We definitely learned a lot about prayer and a lot about patience during that time. Then on February 20th of 2019, Juliana turned 1, and we had a birthday party with all her family, and it was a really kind of happy occasion because 2 days before her birthday party, she had been officially placed into our care, and that was a very exciting day for us. So we celebrated around her first birthday, and the next couple months after that, April and March, really went by quickly. We were able to run through our adoption checklist. Things were moving. We were checking stuff off. We were being a part of these different meetings for her case, and things were just moving right along. About 2 weeks before, we found out that adoption day was May 7th of 2019. And those were kind of some slow weeks, but we got through them. We were excited, and on May 7th, we were able to go in front of the judge. All of Juliana's grandparents, aunts and uncles, and cousins showed up at the courthouse. It was packed. Judge Smith told us that that's the fullest the courthouse has ever been on an adoption day, which was exciting. And we adopted her that day, and we went home, had a big party, and we're praising the Lord for everything He did. He blessed us so richly. We learned so much, and we just felt like God had been moving through this entire process in our lives and in our family, and we're just excited to share what God has done for us.